Welcome to a new way to level up in D&D. More classes, more customization, easier multi-classing. If you are looking for a fun twist to character progression, then you are looking for D&D skill trees. If you'd like to learn more, check the description. Otherwise, on to the video. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another DST video. Today we'll be checking out the Warden. This is a class that I made for my system. It is kind of conceptually about the idea of a character that wants to use their magical capabilities to lock down their enemies and force them into scenarios where they cannot use their abilities. It is kind of flavor-wise based off the concept of you are monstrous in nature. Perhaps you have like the bloodline of a dragon running through in you or something along those lines, but of course you can flavor your characters however you want. Anyway, the Warden won the class vote. If you want to be voting on which class you want to see come up next, you can do so in the description. I have linked my Discord server where we vote in the announcements tab after every single one of these DST videos I post, or you can do so in the comments below if you'd like to do that instead. Otherwise, the Warden is really, I think, an interesting class. It has a lot of really strong abilities if you want to be a spellcaster. The problem with using the Warden and trying to like dip them as like a wizard or a sorcerer or something like that is very similar to the Warlock. They don't get typical caster levels in order to increase their caster levels, and so you can't really mix them to increase your overall caster level as you go. Instead, you get special spell slots that will refresh. Well, they still refresh on a long rest, but they're different. And so some of the really good abilities that the Warden can give you are not going to be as good unless you go full Warden, or at least have Warden be your main source for spell slots. And I'll explain what that really comes down to as we actually talk about how they get their spell slots, but let's start with what the Warden is. They are a D6 hit dice character with Constitution as their major stat and Intelligence as their spell stat. This is a pretty normal line for spellcasting in general. Intelligence is pretty common. Constitution is also a great stat to have you want high on a character because of the fact that it also helps you with your HP. But let's get into the starting benefits of the Warden. They have 6 plus their Constitution modifier in hit points, 1 hit dice, proficiency in simple weapons, and they get to choose 1 set of tools. They'll get Constitution and Dexterity saving throw proficiency, as well as 2 from Arcana, Deception, History, Intimidation, Investigation, Athletics, and Sleight of Hand proficiencies. They also get a +1 Jailer slot, and Monster slot recharges on a 4, 5, and 6 instead of just a 5, 6 when you're starting Warden. Now, those last 2 things are a bit confusing. What do they actually do? Well, the Monster slot recharge change I'll talk about when we actually get into Monster slot, which is a kind of a faraway ability, but a really good one once you grab it. And the +1 Jailer slot I'll talk about when we talk about Jailer's Magic, which is how Wardens get access to spell lists and such. But for starting Warden, you also get Channel Gloom. This is an ability that says that you have uses of Channel Gloom equal to your proficiency bonus, and they recharge on a short rest. With more nodes in Warden, you will gain more uses for Channel Gloom, but for now, you can use a bonus action to expend a uses of Channel Gloom to regain a Jailer slot whose level is equal to the number of Channel Gloom uses expended. Again, you don't actually have any Jailer slots yet, but you will gain Jailer's slots when you gain Jailer's Magic, which means that starting Warden and having 2 subclasses is not going to give you very much of anything for level 1. Very similar to the Artificer, you kind of need to take a few levels before you start seeing the benefits of Warden. This is intentional. But let's move into that first node you can pick up. If you're going full Warden, so you'll have 3 nodes in it at level 1, you would definitely have this ability, and then you'd either have an ability score improvement, more prepared spells, or one with shadows. But let's talk about Jailer's Magic first. Jailer's Magic says that you gain access to the Thaumaturge spell list, and you'll have access to 2 first-level spell slots that refresh on a long rest. You gain an extra of these first-level spell slots with the +1 Jailer slot feature, and you can boost the level of 1 or multiple of these spell slots with the +#Jailer levels feature. And you can go up to a maximum slot level of 8, which means you cannot get 9th level spells on a Warden. Keep that in mind. For example, if you have 3 first level slots and you gain a +2 Jailer levels feature, you could make one of your slots 3rd level while the other 2 remain 1st, or you could make 2 of them 2nd level while the other remains 1st. So this is the exact same spell progression style that the Magus and the Paladin used. The difference is that the Warden doesn't get them back on short rest, they get them back on long rest, which means that you'll be getting a lot bigger spell capabilities with these. So a lot more +3 and +2 jailers, a lot more +2 and +3 jailer levels instead of +1s that you got a lot on the Paladin and Magus. Basically, the Warden is the Paladin and Magus version of a full caster, where their martial capabilities are pretty much non-existent, but they have a lot of spellcasting capabilities with their cool, unique spell-like progression. You also learn 2 cantrips, and you're a prepared spellcaster able to prepare 4 spells of a level that you can cast from any spell list you have access to after completing a long rest. And this number of prepared spells will increase with a plus #preparedspells feature. And so this basically just means that you're a prepared spellcaster in the same way that like the cleric is. It's very good that you're a prepared spellcaster also, because of the way that you'll be leveling up your spell slots. You won't consistently have certain levels, which means that you might want to kind of change out what spells you have every day dependent on what spell slots you have available based off what level you're at. So, because if you have 3 spell slots, one of them's 1st, one of them's 3rd, and the other one's 4th, and then you get a +2 jailer levels feature, so you can turn like the first one into a 3rd level if you'd like to have, 2 thirds and a 4th, you no longer have 1st and 2nd spell levels. So you could keep track of that and just keep some of those 1st level spells just in case, or you could replace those during your long rest into something a little bit better since you have higher level spells to deal with. Starting with an ability score improvement, we can move into a +1 jailer slot. So like I said, you're starting with 2, so now you have 3. And if you started with Warden, you would have a +1 jailer slot as well, which means that if you are starting Warden and you get to this point, you'll have 4 first level spell slots. You can then grab Imitate Legend. This is one of the strongest abilities in the entire game, and honestly a really great one to pick up on almost any character that wants to just have a little bit of spell casting would probably enjoy picking up Imitate Legend. It says that once per long rest, you can channel your monstrous nature and act instantly. After another creature acts in combat, you can choose to take an action. This is a 1-time per long rest legendary action that your PCs can have access to. It's only once per long rest, but it's really good. It's kind of like Action Surge, but it takes a little bit longer to get online than Action Surge because it's a little stronger than Action Surge, and it doesn't come back on a short rest even if you started Fighter. Then we have 2 different options. Umbral Sight is the ability that I think this is the Gloomstalker ability, but I've put it on the Warden. It says that you have dark vision out to a range of 60 feet, and if you already had dark vision from your race, the range increases by 30 feet. You also are adept at evading creatures that rely on dark vision while in darkness, and you are invisible to any creature that relies on dark vision to see you in darkness. So very useful. And then on the side here, we can pick up a +3 jailer levels. So right now we had 4 first level spell slots, but once we pick this up, we could make one of them 4th while keeping the other 3s. We could make 3 of them 2nd while keeping one of them 1st. We could give ourselves 2 firsts, a 2nd, and a 3rd. There's a lot of different options as far as how we want to space these out, and how you want to space them out is totally up to you. Just keep track of what size all your slots are as you go. Afterwards, we can pick up another +1 to our cantrips, a +2 to jailer levels, which means that we can now make any of those options again 2 bigger, or spread it out for a +1 to 2 of them. Really, the options are up to you. A +2 prepared spells over here, a +1 proficiency bonus over here, and we can finish this little middle branch off with a feat, which leads into a +2 jailer slots, or a +3 jailer levels, or both, because they're both great. Again, we started with 4, and now we got another +2, which means we have 6 spell slots now that regenerate every long rest, but they are level-wise really kind of up to you. They all started at level 1, and because of the +3 we got over here, the +2 we got here, and the +3 we got over here, we've got up to 8 like levels to disperse throughout all those first level spells, which means that right now you could literally have an 8th level spell that you could have access to. You could only probably cast it once per day, but this is kind of the strength that the Warden get access to, and that's why they don't get the ability to gain 9th level spells, because you could literally have them at like level 3. That being said, just like the problem with the Warlock, you're often going to run out of spell slots a lot faster than your companions that are spellcasting, so maybe spreading out the power between your multiple spell slots so that you don't have just like one spell slot to shoot out that one 8th level spell per day or something might be a good idea. But it is up to you, and mixing Warden with like a fighter or something so that you're mostly a martial class that has that one giga bomb power that you can drop randomly can be pretty neat as well. And then we've got 2 different sides to the Warden. We've got the aggressive side and the lockdown side. I'm going to start with the aggressive side, grabbing 1 with the shadows. 1 with the shadows says that when you are in an area of dim light or darkness, you can use your action to become invisible until you move or take an action or a reaction. Off this, we've got a little shoot off to grab a cantrip, and we can grab Crippling Eyes. This says that when a creature you see lands a critical hit, you can use your reaction and channel Gloom to negate the critical hit, turning it into a normal hit. This is super strong and going to be a major portion of what you're doing when you pick it up, because honestly, negating critical hits not only feels amazing, but it can save so much damage against like fights. After that, we can pick up a +1 Jailer slot. A +2 Jailer levels. Again, the slot is gaining more spell slots to use, and the levels is how high those slots are. Off this, you can grab a little path to grab another +3 to your Jailer levels before grabbing Chaining Channel. This is pretty cool. It says that whenever one of your cantrips hits a creature, you can channel Gloom, forcing them to make an additional strength saving throw against your spell save DC, or they have their speed reduced to 0 for 1 turn. Now, the reason you wouldn't immediately go this direction is because Gloom of Heart is another really great ability. This says that you gain extra uses of Channel Gloom equal to your Constitution modifier, which means that if you had like, you know, a +3 proficiency bonus, and so you only had 3 uses per short rest, you can start adding your Constitution modifier to that number, which means that you probably would even double the number that you have on average. Let's move to this offshoot branch where we can grab another +3 Jailer levels before we also grab a Double Down. This is a super thematic ability, and it says that whenever a creature you see casts a spell, you can use your reaction to channel Gloom and expend a spell slot of the same level. You then cast the same spell, even if you don't have that spell prepared, and if the spell that you are copying was upcast, you can only cast it at the spell's regular level. This is a great way to get reaction spells almost every single turn, as long as you're fighting a spellcaster and have a, you know, varied array of different spell slots available to you, because again, you kind of get to choose how big each one of the spell slots you have access to is. But it also doesn't say that it has to be a Jailer level, which means that if you also have like Wizard levels so that you have regular caster levels on top of your Jailer slots, then perhaps you could say that all your Jailer slots are really high level, where you keep your regular spellcasting caster levels for the Double Down ability to, you know, duplicate all kinds of other stuff. It also does not say enemy, which means that if your ally is like spamming some low-level spell like Magic Missile or something, you can just gain a little bit of extra use out of it by doubling every single time they cast that, which is super nice. After that, we can pick up a feat, and then we can grab Monster Slot. This is the ability that was referenced in the starting benefits if you started Warden, and it's got some big payoffs right now. Monster Slot says that you can use your action to channel Gloom, bringing your body into an empowered state. For the next minute, you have access to a special spell slot with a level equal to your proficiency bonus. And at the start of your turn, if you have expended this slot, roll a d6. On a 5 or a 6, you regain the slot. So basically, this is a repeatable, regainable spell slot that keeps regenerating every single turn as long as you are lucky when you're rolling. Notably, if you started Warden, it recharges on a 4-5-6 instead of just a 5-6, which means that it goes from a third chance to recharge to a half chance to recharge. charge, which is super beneficial and means that you can realistically spam this every other turn. If you've got a proficiency bonus of 3rd level, that's a fireball every other turn. If you've got a proficiency bonus of 4th level, you can be doing even stronger things. Make it 5th, you can go for like Cone of Cold. 6th level, I mean, we all know how strong 6th level spell slots are. And if we can push this all the way to the, proficiency bonus increase doubled so that you have a 8th level proficiency, so that you have a +8 to your proficiency bonus, you can be spamming an 8th level spell every other turn. And again, the only thing holding you back from doing this constantly is Channel Gloom. It does take an action to get going, but once it's going, it's just the luck of the dice. And that I think is super fun. Off this, we can grab a +2 prepared spells, as well as a +3 jailer level. So again, our spell slots are getting really big really quickly. Again, every time you get more jailer slots, those start out at 1st level, and you can later boost them with other abilities, such as this ability score improvement, which leads into a +4 jailer levels. And now we have the strongest ability on this left half. Well, the proficiency bonus that follows it is pretty great too, but Monster Blood. This says that when you roll initiative, you can expend 2 uses of Channel Gloom to activate your monster slot Channel Gloom. So basically, instead of spending 1 Channel Gloom and your action to get it going, you can spend 2 Channel Glooms to immediately activate it without having to spend an action to Channel Gloom to begin with. This means that you can be firing on all cylinders the second combat starts, but it does cost an extra Channel Gloom to do so. Moving on to the right side of the Warden, this is the side that is a little bit less deadly, but very useful when it comes to kind of controlling the battlefield. It starts with a more prepared spells, allowing you to be more diverse in how you choose your spell slots every day, a feat, and then we can grab countering magic. And this kind of is the mainstay for how this half of the class will be functioning. Countering magic says that you learn the spell Counterspell. And also, you can use your reaction to Channel Gloom, casting Counterspell without spending a spell slot. Which is very cool, means that you basically get free Counterspells every single day, and you got a free known spell in Counterspell, which is pretty cool. Improved Removal says that whenever you cast a spell that requires you to make an ability check as part of the casting of that spell, as in Counterspell and Dispel Magic, you get to add your proficiency bonus to that ability check, which means that because the Counterspell that you cast with Channel Gloom doesn't get upcast, this will help it work even against spells that are higher level. We get another +2 to our jailer levels. We can grab a proficiency bonus increase, and we can grab another +1 to our jail slots. And then we can grab Gloom of Mind. This is kind of the opposite of Gloom of the Heart in the sense that it uses your intelligence modifier to gain you extra uses of Channel Gloom instead of your constitution modifier. Now, your intelligence modifier is your spellcasting stat, which means Gloom of Mind is actually the stronger of the two, but that is because, of course, the Gloom of Heart has a stronger there's other stuff on the left that's stronger than Gloom of Mind, which is why it's kind of evened out on the right side. Off of Gloom of Mind, we can grab Ear for Deceit. This is a bit more flavorful, but it is really useful in social situations. It says that you develop a keen ear for picking out lies. Whenever you make a Wisdom Insight check to determine whether a creature is lying, you can treat a roll of 7 or lower on the d20 as an 8. So this is really good, actually. It makes your Warden totally effective at being a, I guess, detective in some way. And honestly, I could see some investigators taking like Warden Investigator so that they can pick up this and be even better at investigating while having a little bit of spellcasting capabilities to bolster their capabilities in combat. And on top of that, we can grab a +3 to our jailer levels. Off of Gloom of Mind, though, is Uncontainable. This is a really nice one. It says that you get to cast Misty Step without expending a spell slot by channeling Gloom. In addition, whenever you cast Misty Step, you can bring along one willing creature that you can see within 5 feet of you, and that creature teleports to an unoccupied space of your choice within 5 feet of your destination space. So basically, it turns Misty Step into a 2-person teleport, and you can do so whenever you want by channeling Gloom, which is pretty nice. Afterwards, we can pick up a +2 jailer slot. We can grab +3 to our jailer levels, and we can grab Jailbreak. This is a really good ability. And again, I keep saying these are really good abilities, but I think the Warden actually has a ton of awesome abilities that a lot of characters are going to want. And picking them up with the push feat is a great choice, but grabbing Warden levels will not be helping your main caster progression, which means that the problem with grabbing Warden levels just for 1 or 2 of these abilities is that you're going to be kneecapping your own caster levels unless you're just playing to play like a Gish fighter type character. But taking the push feat obviously can negate this problem. But Jailbreak is great. It says that when a creature you see rolls a 19, you can spend your reaction to change it to a 20. This means that every character in your party has a crit range for all checks of 19 to 20 as long as you have your reaction. If you've got ways to get extra reactions like Vanguard levels, or even just like the Warden Initiate feat, which gives you extra reactions, and I wonder why, it's almost like the reaction's really good on the Warden, it means that you can basically cause your allies to crit constantly, and this works with skill checks. I don't know how, and it works with saving throws. It works with everything. It's really cool. It's only a +1 on average, but that +1 changing a non-crit to a crit is what's really important here. It can make anybody crit 1 level easier as long as you're willing to spend your reaction to do so. Refill Drop is a bit niche, but it's niche in situations that are really bad. So it's kind of worth it. It says that when a creature you see rolls a d6 to attempt to recharge an ability that can refresh at the start of its turn, you can channel Gloom to force that roll to fail. This basically shuts down recharge abilities for monsters. You're fighting like 2 dragons that both breathe fire at you at the start of the turn, and then they start trying to recharge their ability every turn, and you just keep saying, no, that's not happening, no, that's not happening, no, that's not happening, channel Gloom, channel Gloom, channel Gloom. They can't breathe fire the rest of the fight, and you can just kneecap them into being very useless. And again, you may only have proficiency bonus channel Gloom uses, but you have Gloom of Mind, which means that it'll be plus your intelligence modifier, so you'll probably have like, on average, 8 to 10 uses per short rest. That's enough to, for 5 turns, completely shut down a dragon very easily, while still using your channel Gloom to do other stuff. Next up, we can grab a ability score improvement before we grab the final jailer levels increase, which is a +4 jailer levels right here, which we can then move into the proficiency bonus increase before we grab probably the strongest ability on the Warden tree. And honestly, this is a huge contender for the push feat. Honestly, the Warden is a treasure trove for push feat capabilities. The problem is you only get 1 push feat, which means you gotta choose which one you think is the coolest among every single one of these 40 classes. Can't Be Chained says that you have advantage on saving throws against spells. All spells. Furthermore, you have resistance against the damage of spells. I think this is really flavorful for the Warden because they're kind of like the anti-mage on the right half, at least. They're definitely the anti-mage. On the left half, they're more of a cool spellcaster. But being able to basically say, nah, I'm not taking damage from that ability. You know, Meteor Swarm hits you, you have advantage on the save. You make the save, and then you take half damage. It means it's not going to do very much damage to you. Now, it's not quite as good as Evasion, but it's still really good because this works against charm effects. This works against stunning abilities. This works against anything that's a spell. That's a lot of abilities, especially if you're up against like spellcasters on the reg. The Warden is one of my favorite classes that I made. I mean, I really like a few of them, but this one I think is really unique and totally something that you don't really see in regular D&D. Now, obviously, a lot of my favorite classes that I've made are the ones that I've kind of taken from Pathfinder and converted them into 5th edition by using this DST system. But I think the Warden might be one of my favorites that I made by not really using something that somebody else created, but drawing inspiration from just a concept I had and bringing it to life in the game. By the end of the Warden's career, if you take in every single node in Warden, you'll have a total of 11 jailer slots. You'll actually have 12 if you started Warden, because you get +1 for starting Warden. But in general, this is a pretty decent amount of spell slots to have throughout the day. It's nowhere near a maximum caster level, but it's way more than anything that the Paladin, Magus, Witch, or Warlock will have access to. And the amount of levels of these spells, they all again start at first level. You'll have 35 increases to spread amongst all 11 of these. Meaning that if you started Warden, you could have all 12 of them be 3rd level, except for 1, I think. If you didn't start Warden, every single one of them can be 3rd level, except for 1, I think, has to be 4th level, if you spread them out evenly. If you don't spread them out evenly, you could have 5 of those spell slots be 8th level spells. The rest would have to be 1st, but that is a lot of 8th level capabilities that you can have as the Warden if you just want to max out as many as you can. Obviously, there's some huge in-between ground. Like, for example, you could have a 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th levels if you wanted to, and you just didn't take all the level increases. There's so many different, like, options for how you want to space these out, but it's totally up to you and what you want to do with your Warden. And again, just like all the other classes, you don't need to take the whole Warden. If you like the jailing half, the right half, grab just that and then do the rest of your levels in literally any other class. And there's so many options for customizability within the Warden. I think it is one of the most fun spellcasters that you can play, right up there with the Shaman, honestly. I think the Shaman will be a lot of fun too. But I think the Warden's really cool, and I want to hear what you think about it in the comments below. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and I hope that you enjoyed the video, and I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. Goodbye.